Hey guys, Don here. Welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery, helping you try to get to your practice to the $1,000,000 mark and beyond. I've been doing some coaching with some other doctors, and once again, if you're interested, you go to podiatrypracticemastery.com/coaching, and we could certainly work together. I've been doing these the intro sessions. The way I'm doing it is I'm doing like an intro session for like a half hour, an hour. You send your questions before, and then if it's a good fit, you would join like the group coaching thing that I have, either the WhatsApp or any other future ones that I'm going to do. So let me tell you a little bit about the questions. I just talked to this doctor because I figure if he has this questions, other people would. This was a he doctor. So the first question was talking about shockwave. We spent quite a few minutes talking about shockwave because he had used the Dornier system in the past, and where you anesthetize things, and he just wasn't getting the results with the Curemedics. He had both focused and radial shockwave, and upon conversation, I think a lot of it might have been the technique, because he was doing either 3 sessions or 6 sessions. The way I think he's been doing maybe 3 or 4. The way I do it is if it's less than 6 months, they do 3 sessions. If it's over 6 months, I'll recommend many times 3 sessions. Then I'll do PT for 6 weeks. Then I'll do another 3, or certain cases I'll do 6 right away. And then really, we're talking more musculoskeletal stuff like Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis and stuff like that. The other thing, I think he had been using a bigger tip, so I always use the gold tip or the ceramic tip. Like 90% of my patients do the gold tip, which is the smaller one that's more intense. Occasionally, if they can't tolerate that, like on like a insertional Achilles tendonitis thing, I would use a ceramic tip. And I'm tending to do combo, so focused and radial. I'll do 2,000 radial first, and then I'll do 2,000 focused. The radial, I tend to get up to about 3.5 bars to 4 bars if I'm able to. And I do kind of the size of a dollar bill. That's kind of how I do it, the size. And it hurts. So I think in his training, they said, oh, the pain shouldn't be above 5. My patients are typically above 5. So I think part of it is he wasn't doing it hard enough. Of course, they're not doing any anti-inflammatories. And then the focused, I'll get to 0.35 if I can. A lot of times with like insertional Achilles, I can't, or like fresh fractures that I'm doing to help it heal a little bit faster. So I think the main issue that I was able to help him with is kind of giving some protocols of how to use it and build his confidence. I think the issue with like shockwave is you have to build your confidence, because if he said like it was only 30% effective. So if I find it was 30% effective, I wouldn't even do it. And so I think a lot of the issue with him is that. Okay. Second question he had is patients arrive late and they screw up my schedule. And I said, well, we've been dealing with that for 15 years. So they arrive late, they don't fill out their paperwork. We have a couple of things where it texts them a link and they click it and they can fill out most of their paperwork online prior to seeing us, which saves a lot of time. We also have that option as an iPad. So we have multiple, I think we have 6 iPads in each office, and it's through a company, and they do their paperwork like when they get there, but it's still delayed. It doesn't really bother me anymore. It bothers more my colleagues. And I think the main reason is because I have a scribe, and the scribe just makes me much more efficient so I can catch up. And so it really doesn't bog me down as much. So I think the real solution is probably like, an iPad or asking them to come in sooner, like the solution to that problem. But the real problem is I think he could use a scribe. And also if you guys need help training scribes, because that's the sucky part. Finding a scribe isn't bad, but knowing if they're any good and training them is the hard part. I talked to my scribe, and I'm trying to give him some side work on the weekend. So, because he's from India, and nothing wrong with India, but he just, I think he could benefit from more revenue. And so basically, if you have a scribe that you want to train, or they don't know how to do stuff well, he can do stuff on like Saturday. So if you need help, just let me know. Okay. The other thing we talked about is maybe doing a kiosk. So there are kiosks, there's iPads. We use a version that's an iPad. There are other kiosk options. The one he mentioned was like ClearWave. Third question he asked me, new patients about orthotics, and he still does like plaster casting. And this is more of a workflow thing. We don't cast. The only ones I cast are ones that are really, really flat, but everyone else gets scanned. We have a Northwest scanner and a forward motion scanner. They're both using a structure scanner that's on the iPad, but they both use the same iPad. So we just have different apps, but the same iPad. Okay, so I would not plaster cast just because it affects the workflow and slows things down. If you did have to do that, then you would use like an STS saw because it's a lot quicker. That's what I would say. Diabetic shoes, he asked me a few questions. We don't do diabetic shoes, and I just said the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, especially with all the paperwork. I know other people have ways that work effectively for it, but the challenge is getting the primary care to sign the paperwork and all that stuff. I don't want to go into that because I don't do that much. He talked about audits and saying that he was getting audit for, especially for DME stuff. I think you are gonna, if you do a lot of DME, you are gonna get audited. We have templates, so if you go to my, if you want to get mine, you can go to podiatrypracticemastery.com slash, I think it's EMR, and you can get my EMR templates. And if there's any that you don't see there, but we have like templates for like dispensing it, things that are in the like dispensing it and when they pick it up, and you just have to have templates. So you just make them once and they're good forever, and you just modify them for what type of DME, either it's non-custom or custom. But just getting those templates really takes a long time. The sixth question he had, this is a question he had kind of about a salary for an associate. So sorry if you're an associate and listening to this, and hopefully this will help you if you're an owner. But the way I think of it, and we've done this over the years, is we tend to, with new doctors, we'll give them a salary for 6 months, and then we will put them on a percentage. Now that's a pro and con. So now as I think about it, if I could do it over again, and I was only going to keep people that wanted to be associates and didn't want to be owners, like we tend to hire people that have an ownership mentality. So usually if they're not buying in after 3 years, they're going to go somewhere else. So, but if I wanted long-term associates, which I think is a better business call if you're a business person, then I would give them a salary. So I would keep the salary, whatever is like 125, 150, and then in order to produce that, I would kind of mentally in my mind see, well, to produce that they would have to bring in about 400,000 net. So that would 30% of that is about 120. Along with benefits, it would be a little bit more, let's say 500 or something like that. So if they can produce that amount, that's great. If you're having a high producer, they're not going to want to stay there, right? Because they're going to want to earn more revenue. The way we do it is a 30% bonus structure. So they get the salary, let's say 125, and then we bonus them every 3 months based on their production. So let's say they produced like in the first whatever. So let's say it's they produced 60,000. So that would be 18,000. So 30%, that's what we give them. So maybe their salary is set at 10,000 and that they get that 8,000. So every 3 months we would give them like a $23,000 or $24,000 bonus to get them up to the level. Anyway, that's how we do it. 30% I think is a fair number. If they're producing over $1 million, they're probably going to be, you should invite them to be an owner or not. If they want to be a salaried employee, like why not keep someone and pay them well, pay them $300,000 to bring in $1 million and just keep them as an employee. So anyway, last thing he asked about doing a dashboard. We have a dashboard within our EMR. We use Athena. And it gives us a dashboard of like how many patients I saw, how much I produced each month. This is something we go over in my WhatsApp group, the $1 Million Club thing. So if you're interested in being part of that, go to that, fill out that coaching thing. You go to podiatrypracticemastery.com. There's a thing on coaching, and just fill out. There's a Google form that gives me a little bit of information about your practice, and then we can set up a time to chat. And last thing he asked me about was setting up the schedule. How do you make sure you put new patients in? So the way we do it is and this is the way I think he does as well, like one new patient per hour. So, and he's saying, look, my staff putting in other follow-ups that aren't as profitable. The way we do it is staff has to put, there's different slots, like new patient slots and follow-up slots. They have to fill those out. If they want to change it, they have to ask either the doctor or the manager. So that's the way we keep this, like the 7 or 8 new patients a day. New patients are king as long as they don't bog your staff down too much because they're kind of more complex. So I would say as many new patients as you can get. And what I'm at a point where I'm like having people come in for less follow-ups. Like for matrices, instead of doing a 2 and a 4-week one, I'll do just a 3-week one. For routine care, I have a block time Friday morning. That's all I have, and they have to fit in that time. There's no other availability for me. For like a lot of things I used to have, like paronychias, I'm not seeing them back anymore. So these are things, it's just so I can put a more valuable patient in for that. So I'm doing less follow-up